I thought the company holiday party would be the perfect place to propose to my girlfriend of 3 years. Instead, I walked in on a scene that shattered my world and exposed a web of lies that had been unfolding right under my nose. This is the story of how I discovered the truth about the two people I trusted most, and how that betrayal ultimately led me to a life I never knew I wanted. The fluorescent lights of Thompson Bradford Marketing Agency's conference room seemed especially harsh that Monday morning as I, Marcus Chen, 28, senior content strategist, tried to focus on my quarterly presentation. My mind kept drifting to the small velvet box hidden in my desk drawer, a 1.5-carat diamond ring that had cost me 6 months of savings. The ring represented everything I thought I knew about love and trust. Funny how life has a way of proving you wrong about both. I'd spent weeks perfecting the proposal plan for the upcoming holiday gala. Sophia Martinez, 26, digital marketing specialist at rival agency Burke Associates, was the kind of woman who deserved a fairy tale moment. We'd met at a digital marketing conference 3 years ago where she'd challenged my presentation on influencer marketing strategies with such intelligence and wit that I'd asked her to continue the debate over coffee. That coffee turned into dinner, dinner turned into breakfast, and before I knew it, I was in love with the brilliant woman with the infectious laugh and ambitious dreams. Excellent work as always, Marcus Richard Sterling, 45, CEO, commented after my presentation, his steel gray eyes crinkling at the corners with that characteristic charm that had helped him build the agency from nothing. Rich was more than just my boss, he'd become my mentor and friend over the past 5 years. He'd taken a chance on me when I was fresh out of college, passed over Ivy League graduates to give an opportunity to a state school kid with big ideas and a stronger work ethic. "Thanks, Rich," I replied, gathering my materials. "I've been working on that Nielsen account strategy you mentioned." "Let's discuss it over lunch tomorrow," he suggested, checking his Rolex, a 10th anniversary gift from his wife Caroline, as he'd once proudly told me. "I have some contacts that might be interested in our approach." If only I'd known then what I know now. The signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs through the months leading up to that fateful holiday gala. Sophia's increasing number of client emergencies that always seemed to pop up on our date nights. The new Prada bag she carried despite complaining about her entry-level salary. The lingering scent of unfamiliar cologne I once caught on her scarf but dismissed as paranoia. Love doesn't just blind you, it makes you willfully ignore the obvious. The holiday gala was being held at the Grand Meridian Hotel, a place so exclusive it made my proposal plans feel almost pedestrian in comparison. I'd arrived 2 hours early to coordinate with the event staff about my surprise, a string quartet hidden behind the Winter Garden's elaborate topiaries, ready to play La Vie en Rose, the song that had been playing during our first kiss, when I got down on one knee. Sophia had texted saying she'd be fashionably late, another client emergency at Burke Associates. I spent the extra time triple-checking everything, the champagne on ice, the photographer positioned discreetly behind a massive poinsettia display, the ring safely tucked in my jacket pocket. The hotel's Winter Garden was a masterpiece of sophisticated holiday decor. Crystal icicles hung from the ceiling, catching the light and throwing rainbow reflections across the marble floor. White roses and silver-sprayed branches created an elegant winter wonderland effect. It was perfect, or it would have been. I was doing a final walk-through when I heard Sophia's laugh echoing from the partially open door of a private lounge. That laugh had been my favorite sound in the world for 3 years. But this time it was followed by another familiar sound, Rich's deep chuckle, the one I'd heard countless times in board meetings and client presentations. Something in my gut twisted. Later I'd recognize it as intuition finally breaking through the walls of denial I'd built. But in that moment I told myself I was being ridiculous. Rich was probably just giving Sophia some career advice. They'd met at several industry events after all. The scene one walked in on destroyed that last desperate attempt at rationalization. Sophia perched on the arm of a leather chair, her red dress riding up her thighs, while Rich stood too close, his hand resting possessively on her waist. The engagement ring in my pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Marcus, Sophia jumped up, her face draining of color. Her lipstick was slightly smeared. This isn't. We were just. Rich didn't bother with excuses. He straightened his tie and met my eyes with a mix of challenge and something that might have been regret. How long have you been standing there, Chen? Long enough my voice sounded strange to my own ears, as if it were coming from somewhere far away. How long has this been going on? The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia looked at Rich, a gesture that told me everything I needed to know about who was in control of their little secret. 8 months, she finally whispered. It started at the Digital Innovation Awards in March. The Digital Innovation Awards where Rich had won CEO of the Year, and I'd spent the entire evening telling everyone how proud I was to work for him, where Sophia had disappeared for an hour, claiming she wasn't feeling well, where I'd ordered chicken soup to be delivered to her apartment, worried she might be coming down with something. The truth spilled out in ugly fragments. Their first kiss in his office after a late-night strategy session, weekend meetings at boutique hotels where no one would recognize them. The insider information about Burke Associates clients that Sophia traded for designer gifts and promises of a future together. While I was staying late at the office trying to earn a promotion to give her the life I thought she deserved, she was sleeping with the man who would have been deciding on that promotion. The fallout was nuclear. Caroline Sterling, 42, philanthropist and board member of 3 charitable foundations, didn't just file for divorce, she launched an internal investigation that revealed Rich had a history of inappropriate relationships with employees and competitors. The board of directors called an emergency meeting that ended with Rich being asked to step down. Burke Associates fired Sophia when they discovered she'd been feeding confidential information to a competitor. I quit 2 weeks later. Silicon Valley had been trying to recruit me for months, and suddenly, San Francisco's distance from Chicago seemed like its biggest selling point. My resignation email was brief and professional. The draft folder still contains all the versions I didn't send, the angry ones, the hurt ones, the ones that asked why. The last time I saw Sophia was at Intelligentsia Coffee near her apartment. She was there to return the key to my condo and the promise ring I'd given her on our 2nd anniversary. She looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes and perfect makeup unable to hide the fear in her eyes, fear of facing the consequences of her choices. I never meant for any of this to happen, she said, her once beloved face now looking like a stranger's. Rich was just. He was everything I thought I wanted. Successful, powerful, worldly. But in the end, he was just a man who got caught cheating on his wife with his employee's girlfriend. And I was just the idiot who was going to propose, I replied, sliding the untouched coffee away. You were proposing, her voice cracked. For the first time, I saw genuine regret in her eyes. Not anymore, I stood up, leaving the coffee and the last 3 years behind. Rich tried to call me multiple times after I put in my resignation. On my last day, he finally cornered me in the parking garage, his designer suit looking somehow less impressive than before. I can explain everything, he started, reaching for my shoulder. Save it for the board, I cut him off, stepping back. I hear they're very interested in workplace ethics these days. Caroline's lawyer too. 6 months later, I'm leading the content strategy division at a major tech company in San Francisco. My team is brilliant. The view from my office includes the Golden Gate Bridge. And last week, I had dinner with a pediatric surgeon named Grace who loves indie movies and makes terrible puns. She asked me about Chicago, and for the first time, I was able to tell this story without feeling the knife twist in my gut. The aftermath in Chicago played out like a corporate Greek tragedy. Caroline got the house and half the company in the divorce settlement. Rich started a consultancy firm, but his reputation made clients hesitant to sign on. Sophia's working at a small boutique agency across town, her dreams of becoming a marketing director tarnished by the scandal. Last I heard, she's taking night classes in graphic design, trying to rebuild her career from scratch. I still have the engagement ring. Not because I'm holding on to the past, but as a reminder that sometimes what feels like an ending is really just a beginning. A reminder that betrayal, as painful as it is, can set you free from relationships that were never meant to be yours. The truth is, I didn't just lose a girlfriend and a mentor that night at the holiday gala. I lost my illusions about love, trust, and loyalty in both personal and professional relationships. But in exchange, I gained something more valuable: the courage to walk away from people who don't deserve my trust, the wisdom to recognize that sometimes the best gifts come disguised as disasters, and the knowledge that rock bottom can be a solid foundation if you choose to build something new on it. Grace asked me yesterday if I ever regret not confronting them both more dramatically that night, not demanding more explanations or making a scene worthy of a viral video. I told her the truth: the best revenge isn't causing a scene or plotting elaborate payback, it's living well and letting karma handle the rest. After all, they taught me the most valuable lesson of my career: trust your instincts, keep your integrity, and never ever date someone who laughs too long at your boss's jokes. Sometimes the red flags look an awful lot like regular flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. And that ring? I sold it last week and donated the money to a scholarship fund for ethical business practices at my old state university. Sometimes the best way to close a chapter is to help write a better story for someone else.